Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtotar Sada Shri Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Parshatya Deshatarine. Just loosen that screw, not that one, yeah, and then just pull it up, yeah. And then probably Russell made some changes for the, I hope it works. Today we are continuing to read from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, entitled The Characteristics of King Puranjana, Text 54. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Andav Amisham Pauranam Nirvak Pesha Krita Ubhau Akshanvatam Adipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. Andav Amisham Pauranam Nirvak Pesha Krita Ubhau Akshanvatam Adipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. Andav Amisham Pauranam Nirvak Pesha Skrita Ubhau Akshanvatam Adipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. Mataji. Word to word meaning. Andha, blind. Amisham, among those. Pauranam, of the inhabitants. Nirvak, of the name Nirvak. Peshakrito, of the name Peshaskrit. Ubhau, both of them. Akshanvatam, of the people who possessed eyes. Adipatihi, ruler. Tabhyam, with both of them. Yati, used to go. Karoti, used to act. Cha, and. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Of the many inhabitants of this city, there are two persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Puranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. Translation responsively. Of the many inhabitants of the city, there are two persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Puranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. Purport. This is a reference to the arms and legs of the living entity. The two legs do not speak and they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he is likely to fall into a hole or bump into something. Thus, led by the blind legs, one's life may be placed in jeopardy. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes to see. This means that in the hands and legs there are no holes. In the head there are many holes: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. But lower down in the arms and legs there are no holes. Consequently, the arms and legs have been described as andha, blind. Although the living entity has many holes in his body, he nonetheless has to work with his hands and arms. Although the living entity is a master of many other senses, when he has to go somewhere, do something, or touch something, he has to use his blind legs and hands. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The living entity's journey is described as to how he acquired various mechanisms by which he can fulfill his desires. After having looked at those assistants who have holes in them, like for example, Prabhupada quotes here that the head has got eyes, and then nostrils, ears, and the mouth. After having described the body with the 9 holes, which are representing the knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses. Now the description is moving on to where the living entity wants to act. After having thought and after having developed feelings, then you start to act. So when it's time for action, that's when the arms and the legs come into picture. So when I was going through this purport, I was starting to think about how Prabhupada described once the combination of a blind man and lame man. Does anyone know that description, example? Yes? Would you like to tell that? What was the... Any one of them?
One carries the other, the lame man cannot walk, and the blind cannot see.
So blind cannot see, the lame cannot walk. So then how do they counteract each other's deficiencies? So blind lifts the lame man, and then
he guides.
So then the lame man can show the direction, and then both of them can get somewhere. And what is the point Prabhupada was making with this? Western countries is like the blind man, okay, who do not have much spiritual knowledge. Yes, and then? In India, there's a lot of spiritual knowledge, but they don't have the material facilities to execute that. So, when then these two combine, so then go on.
So then if the blind, like just like how the blind man carries the lame man,
Yeah.
and then the lame man can show him how to go. So same way India can combine with the West, and India can show with the spiritual knowledge how to see, and they have the facilities, and then they can work together.
So when Prabhupada landed in America, he was seeing how he was looking at the facilities that are around him. He even, while staying in the one of the apartments in the initial days with Agarwal family, when Mrs. Agarwal was vacuuming, and then he was fascinated to look at all those facilities, washing machine. He started washing clothes himself in the shower. So looking at all the facilities, Prabhupada started to understand that this country is full of material wealth and prosperity and facilities, but they don't have the spiritual wisdom. And that's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita also we have the references as to how anyone taken birth in the land of Bharat. Anyone knows that verse? Bharata Bhumile? Dharma sartakare karopaka. So we are, so those born in the land of Bharat, they have to take the step of enlightening people from the other parts of the world. And after having got enlightened, those who have the resources, then they can start using those resources in the proper way. Prior to this chapter, we looked at the prayers of Lord Shiva, where he describes the Lord, glorifies him as the owner of all the senses, and how he is controlling both the gross and the subtle body through having the Chaturvyuha takes charge of various aspects of your mind, intelligence, and the false ego. Aniruddha being in charge of intelligence, so on and so forth. But the principle is the Lord is in charge of all your gross and subtle senses. Now, when we come to the stage of action, which means prior to that we must have had some feelings, and prior to that we must have had some thoughts. So that's how it works: thinking, feeling, and willing. In that section of the purport, Prabhupada explains about these three aspects of thinking, feeling, and willing. Willing is when you start to act. Now, if there is no thought process going on and you're just acting out of whims, the results that you will get is disaster. So action without a plan is a disaster. Now that's what is being described here is, if we are going just by our legs and hands, not having any vision, we're going to end up in a we're likely to fall into a hole or bump into something. And that will cause disaster. On the other hand, if the consciousness is proper, so that's why in several prayers, Lord Shiva will pray that you please purify my consciousness. Because he himself is in charge of false ego. He prays so that the consciousness is purified, and as we sing in the Mangalacharan prayers, Om Ajnana Timirandasya. So the spiritual master opens our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So that's when we accept that we are born blind spiritually, and we take the crucial step of accepting a spiritual master who comes and opens our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge and starts the process. So the crucial step of accepting a spiritual master, that's the first step in the devotional service. We had 2 initiations in the last few days, where devotees are taking those crucial step. So that crucial step will open the door for the rest of the 63 items of the devotional service. So then we are guided about what should be done and what should not be done. That's why the do's and don'ts, the spiritual master takes a vow. So in front of the deities, in front of Srila Prabhupada, in front of the fire, Vaishnavas, the vow is taken that I will not engage in meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling. So this basically prevents us from throwing more stones into the pond which is already disturbed. Now by stopping all this you are preventing your legs and arms in doing activities which is going to put you in disaster. Basically, you will glide down to a lower species. So the 4 pillars of sinful activities are now prevented. Then the do's is asked. So what will you do now? That's what spiritual master. Okay, you said you will avoid this, and what will you do? Then comes the vow of I will chant minimum of 16 rounds. Now, immediately the action, use of hands is there. You'll have to chant. So which means all the sense organs have to be in line. Just like for getting the children to sit in a class, we'll have to constantly monitor them. To bring them itself is a great effort, and then ask them to sit, and then sit for a period of 5 to 10 minutes, and then over and above making them listen. So that's what happens in the process of chanting, where the mechanism is that you hold the bead and then you tell the mantra, and then you hear, and then you go to the next bead. So it is not just physical activity. The mind also has to be present. And then obviously you're sitting down, you're using your legs, or you might be walking and chanting. So the best is, highest standard is to chant 16 rounds in one place without moving. That's the highest standard. So, but then if you are feeling sleepy or things, so you're asked to move and chant, where your legs are being used. So this is how we direct. So from the inside, you are able to look at, you're gaining this process from the spiritual master, and then he's guiding you through the basics of how every sense organ is getting engaged in the service of the Lord. So it begins with the Guru's instruction, so we do it as a matter of a duty. As a few days ago, Kadam Khan Maharaj was saying about whether I like it or not, we chant. And yesterday's example of mother taking care of the child. Somebody can help him out with the chair. So, depending on the mood, I will chant or not, but then it doesn't apply when you're taking care of the children. So whether you feel like or not, you do it. So in that way, what happens over a period, the chitta, the consciousness is slowly getting purified. Seto darpana marjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam. So the burning fire of material existence is brought down, and your consciousness is also getting purified because you're engaging your intelligence, your mind and the sense organs in the service of the Lord. When looking at this analogy of hands, legs and also the consciousness, Prabhupada compares himself to be the soul of ISKCON, and he tells that the members or his disciples to be the arms and the legs. So through that point, he illustrates that if the arms and the legs are not cooperating, what can the soul do? Here we see that the living entity is helpless without the hands and legs. So we have come up to the point of thinking, we have developed feelings towards it, and we are starting to purify our consciousness through this process. When it times to come for action, when we don't have any way to act, we are kind of handicapped. So that's when the hands and legs come into picture. When it comes to an individual, all have to work in line. It has to be in a synchronous way. It's not that you want to walk in a particular direction but the legs are taking you in a different direction, and which means that's not a proper state, that's a diseased state. When it comes to the institution also, Prabhupada was making the point about how the hands and legs have to cooperate and it has to follow the guidelines from the soul. And he is also making another strong point that he is the central focus. Without the soul, the body, the senses are useless. And without the senses, the soul is inactive. So, when it comes to executing a devotional service, especially which are laid down by Srila Prabhupada, it is good to know the instructions that he has given, which is the life and the soul. So then that is taken up, and we will also see a lot of disciples of Srila Prabhupada exemplifying various qualities of Srila Prabhupada, and we see them as a living role model. And they are with us, and we are fortunate to have such exalted devotees around us who are leading by example to show how they have taken deeply within themselves the principles laid down by Srila Prabhupada, and they are exemplifying them by their behavior, and through that they are inspiring others. So they have taken their instructions, which is coming from Srila Prabhupada, who we described as the soul of ISKCON, and they have transferred that to their consciousness, purified themselves, exemplifying, and now they are transferring that to others. So bhakti is an affair of the heart. And with that purified consciousness, with that inspiration which is getting transferred, so that's what gets transferred in the process of initiation. In the process of Diksha, the transference of bhakti happens. So you have made a strong commitment, and you are willing to put your body, mind and words in the service of Krishna through a bona fide sampradaya, which means you are willing to act, and prior to that have feelings, and prior to that think. So in all times, places and circumstances, under the guidance of a spiritual master who will be giving you that inspiration, so that you can use your various sense organs properly and serve the master of the senses. So that's what happens during so that's what initiation means. You're starting the process whereby you are set in the right track, and now it's up to you how far you want to take it. Having looked at how the spiritual master guides the disciple, and also how Srila Prabhupada is functioning as the soul of ISKCON, and then we are meant to act as the sense organs, we will now look at the 7 purposes of ISKCON and see how there is a combination of the head and the hands and the legs. So those of you who attended the Founder-Acharya seminar, does someone remember any of the purposes of ISKCON? Do you like to recollect some of them? What's the first purpose of ISKCON? To systematically propagate. Yeah. You can look up, find out from your smartphone and tell the first purpose. That way we can see the combination of the head, the heart, and the arms and the legs. To systematically propagate Krishna consciousness to society at large and educate the people with spiritual techniques. I'm just summarizing, it's not verbatim. So that's the process. So then what you achieve by that is to bring peace in the society. Yeah, peace and harmony. Yeah. Okay. Is that close to what I said, Prabhu? Like
Systematically propagate the spiritual knowledge to the society at large,
Yeah.
and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance
balance
of
of
values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world.
to achieve real unity and peace in the world. So if we analyze that, a part of it deals with education. Then the second half deals with what do you achieve by that. Now if we look at the purposes, predominantly the focus is on education. And then then we can look at the second purpose. What's the second purpose?
Second purpose: to propagate a consciousness of Krishna or God as is revealed in the great scriptures of India, Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam.
So we are not doing this propagation blindly, but we are doing it based on Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So again, propagation and education. So then what's the third purpose?
To bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus
And
developing an idea within the members and humanity at large. Each soul
is a part and parcel of Krishna. So bringing the members of the society together. So now that we have established Krishna as a center, so it's time to bring the people together, and also devotees should come together. So that is the third purpose. The predominance is more still propagation, bringing people together and making sure that they understand their part and parcel of Krishna. So when coming together, we have to invite somebody, we start to use our hands, please come. And when we ourselves are going, we are using our legs. So when you are inviting somebody, when you are doing some programs, so a lot of speech is involved. So from here onwards, you will see that it will turn more into, the purposes will lead to action. So what's the fourth one?
What was to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregation chanting the holy name of the Lord as revealed in the teachings of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes, so congregational chanting. Congregational chanting involves playing musical instruments, singing, one person is leading, others are following, and then when you go out on the streets, so that's why it's highly important that we put on devotional clothing and have a smiling face, so that you are acting as a representative of the Sankirtan movement, where you're using joyfully, with your consciousness in a joyful mood, you're using your hands and legs to dance and sing, and by that you're attracting others to at least appreciate, chant, hear. Okay, next purpose.
To erect for the members and the society at large a holy place of transcendental pastime dedicated to personality of God Krishna.
Okay, temple building. we can read through the troubles which Prabhupada went through for building every temple and also publishing books. So when books are published, Prabhupada said, which is going to come later, that it is as good as capturing an empire. So when we are building a temple physically, so that part of the land which is in the material world is becoming spiritualized. So that involves a lot of thinking and then guidance, and then you develop your feeling towards the Lord and Guru. So feeling with feeling to Guru and Krishna, you start putting hands and legs into action and you start building the temple. And it's not enough, you just build them, you just have to maintain them, which is the toughest part. Again, all three, consciousness, intelligence, mind and the sense organs, everything is engaged. So that's how the progression happens, that's what way I see it. Yeah, next, Prabhu.
To bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler, more natural way of life.
So that represents the farm communities. So while I was coming for the class, Prabhu gave me a bottle of rose water. What's the process it takes to make that?
There's a particular variety of rose. You get the petals of
Mm-hmm.
rose petals and distill it.
So the rose petals are collected, then they are distilled, yeah, water, and then you leave it for.
Well, you just distill it and the product.
Yeah.
Drips out slowly.
Okay, so that involves a lot of time and effort and thinking and then planning, and also you physically go to the plant, pick the flowers, which means you're using your hands and legs based on the consciousness that I'm not going to produce this rose water so that I can use it myself and enjoy. So what was the consciousness? When he came, he gave it to me, and what did you say, Prabhu? This is for Radha Vallabha. So go give it, who is the right person? So then I took it and then I gave it to Preeti Lakshana Mataji. So she would have given it to for the service of the Lord. So that was the purpose, to live in the farm communities and produce enough vegetables and grains and protect the cows, and you can live a simple life. And all that is not for our own, but to please the deities. So the milk that comes, that also gets used. So you see that initial purposes are more towards propagation, education, then later on we're moving towards putting your hands and legs into work to please the Lord. Yes, Prabhu, then?
And the final one is, with a view towards achieving a after-mentioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodical magazines, books and other items.
Yes. So the timing is perfect. We don't see many devotees in the class because they are busy packing their bags, stocking them up with the books. I saw Gopavandesh Prabhu taking a trolley and going. So they are pretty focused. They have done a lot of thinking and planning before the marathon begins. And Prabhu was giving inspiring talks to devotees who are interested in book distribution, which means he's inspiring them, giving them, sharing what he has learned and other book distributors have learned over a period. Then they are now in action for the next 1 month. So they are using their hands and legs in the service of the Lord. So printing also involves a lot of work, and then from printing, then transporting, then taking. So this is how you appreciate the Bhakti Yoga process, as to how that hands and legs which will take us when it is directed by a polluted consciousness, which will take us and make us do things which are going to cause disaster. That same hands and legs, when the consciousness is purified by the instructions of the spiritual master, and the senses need engagement, so these are now getting engaged in the Lord's service. And as you can see, the pujari is using his hands and to serve the Lord. Every organ has got the specific purpose, and the spiritual master through the scriptures guides us to use them in the proper purpose and then to purify it. So this is how we purify our hands and legs and our consciousness. And as a result, what do we get is to get to see the Lord and His feet, thighs, navel, chest, arms, neck, face, within the face, the cheeks, the lips, the eyes, the eyebrows, then the various decorations. My dear Lord, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. The Lord's beauty resembles a dark cloud during the rainy season. As the rainfall glistens, his bodily features also glisten. Indeed, he is the sum total of all beauty. The Lord has 4 arms and an exquisitely beautiful face with eyes like lotus petals, a beautiful, highly raised nose, a mind-attracting smile, a beautiful forehead, and equally beautiful and fully decorated ears. Snigdha pravidganashyamam sarva saundarya sangramam charuvayata chaturbahu sujata ruchirananam padmakosha pala saksham sundara brusunasikam sudvijam sukapolasyam samakarna vibhushanam. So the result of collecting those rose petals, putting it in a distiller, waiting for it to distill, then get the rose water, that essence, and then when you give it, because you're doing it through a proper bona fide sampradaya, you're offering it to your spiritual master, he offers it to Prabhupada, and all the way it goes up, then you get access to seeing the Lord with such beautiful features. And the result of that is the darkness of the heart in the conditioned soul gets dissipated. Sanchintayet bhagavatas charanara vindam. So that also Lord Kapila instructs his mother, when to meditate on the form of the Lord, one has to first take a general vision and then zoom into different parts, bodily parts of the Lord, and meditate on each limb of the Lord. Vajrangusa dvaja saroruha lanchanadyam uttunga rakta vilasan nakachakra valam joshnadibir agatam mahat hridayanda karam. the feet of the Lord is decorated with various auspicious marks like the Vajra. So that acts on the mountain of sins that the living entities has done. So by using our hands and legs and our mind, our intelligence and consciousness, the result is that with the auspicious signs in the feet of the Lord, He dissipates the darkness in the heart of a devotee. Then with this service, because you are engaging all this, Lord Shiva explains that you are the person who can satisfy all the senses and give satisfaction. Because that's what the living entity is always running after. Because I've got an experience either through my previous samskaras or through my recent conditioning. So I want to go and enjoy that, which means going involves the legs, and then if we want to acquire something, enjoy, so the hands are there. So what is we are looking for, the goal is satisfaction, but the same thing can be achieved here. That's what Lord Shiva explains in the prayer. So you are the master of all the senses, and you are the one who can give the supreme satisfaction. So that's how we can see how Srila Prabhupada is acting as the soul of ISKCON and directing the various organs. And he has distilled the essence of all the scriptures and the various commentaries of various acharyas. That's what you'll see, Prabhupada having all the books in front of him, taking the essence out, like a honey bee collecting the honey from various, and he has given us this Bhaktivedanta purports, and through that he is directing the various limbs, and he is taking us to the Lord through this whole journey, which is not troublesome, but it is susukam kartum avyayam. While you are performing this process, you are also blissful because your senses are getting engaged in the service of the Lord. Just as a servant who's serving a king, he is also going to enjoy the same benefits as that of the king. And the end result is you are situated in your actual, original spiritual identity. So every sense organ has got a spiritual version. So you have spiritual body, spiritual eyes, spiritual nose, hands, legs. So then they are going to be used in the Lord's service. So that's what, so there is sambandha which is established. You are the servant of the Lord and you are meant to serve Him. And then you do that through a proper process, which means you accept a spiritual master, surrender your body, mind and birds to Him. And then the prayojana, or the goal is love of God. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions related to what we discussed today. Yes.
You were saying before about how Prabhupada wanted to merge the East with the West.
Yeah.
But what good is the West when it's clearly so destructive?
What good is the East if it is so destructive?
West.
What good is the West if it is so destructive? Yeah, destruction is because of impure consciousness. If you look at the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they are not in the mood of destroying people, but they are in the mood of destroying the consciousness, the polluted consciousness. That's what they are killing. They are not killing the actual person. So when it goes to the extreme, towards the end of Kali Yuga, that's when the Kalki avatar will come, and that's his Yuga Dharma. But now the current Yuga Dharma is not to kill people, but kill the polluted consciousness. So if we look at it in a totally optimistic way, then there's a whole, so many people can be preached to. So if you look at it in a different way, it's a whole new arena for you to preach, because I have so many people who I can share this knowledge with. So it depends on the outlook, and that's how Srila Prabhupada saw the West. If you read his initial poems, so he does call this as a people who are filled with passion and ignorance, but he's going there with Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and he's able to see the good in them also. Another advantage of the West is they don't have the difficulty of overcoming demigod worship or the rituals, or if the consciousness is clear, they are like a clean slate, so you can put Krishna in. Whereas personally, I had to go through Shiva is prominent and so many demigod worship. So that is in our system. So that has to be removed, and then we need to be convinced. So in that sense, yeah, there are pros and cons in each. Depends on how you look at it, how you want to engage that. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah, okay. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu.
You said final stage is Prema Pamapaman.
Yeah.
So how we evaluate what is your position now? Your realization.
How do you evaluate my position now? How much I'm detached from matter and how much I'm attracted to Krishna. Bhakti pareshana bhavam viraktir anyatra cha. So, how much detached I am from matter and how much attracted I am towards Krishna. So personally I have a long way to go. So that is our own self-assessment. Then we can read the stages of bhakti, and then assess ourselves through the books, then through trusted seniors, and through the spiritual master. So by that we can understand how much we are progressing. Anyone wants to add to that point? No? Okay. Any other question? Okay. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.